Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be recording this for you today. So the reason that I am recording this particular video is because I got a lot of questions about how I actually use AI within my synthesis process. And there are a few different ways that I use AI, and I wanted to highlight this particular one because one, I can show you like an insight into how I actually think about these things and use them. And then I also wanted to talk through, because ChatGPT can hallucinate quite a bit, I wanted to talk through how I use an actual tool for speeding up and for efficiency and also for testing tools, because I'm all for testing AI within the synthesis process. So this right here is Breyta. It is an AI tool that helps with speeding up analysis and synthesis within a research project. It is not for creating insights. It's not for replacing you. It's not for, replacing anything. It is for helping you find things in your project that either you might have missed or to help speed up the process of finding themes. It's not going to do the work for you. It's just going to aid you in the work that you're doing and speed up the work. There is nothing that can replace humans as of yet. Let's see. But it does help. It's helped me with tight deadlines. So for instance, I have a project that I am doing right now where we have a really tight turnaround because of holidays and everything like that. And I'm not going to use any sort of data that is confidential. I'm using data that I created based off of other data that is no longer confidential. But what this has helped me is in particular is speeding up that process, especially when I have tight deadlines. So let's get into it. All right, first things first. This is, as I said, Breyta. I do have a link to try it out, which I recommend doing. If you follow the link from that I give you, you do get an extended free trial, but I do recommend trying it out because it is really helpful. So how do I actually go about doing this? So in Breyta, what I do is I create a new project. There are a bunch of ways that you can upload project files, video, audio documents, data archives, Google Drive, YouTube, pretty much anything. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and upload transcripts. So these are all text files, and they are all transcripts of interviews. I don't know why it's, oh, dummy. Yeah. Okay. So as you'll see here, these are my transcripts here. So it's just uploaded all of these. As you can see, I think that there are 16 of them, and then we go ahead and we say done. So there we go. We've uploaded our stuff. I'm going to call this travel project. Let's call it travel project. I'm really good at naming things, as we can all see. So our files are here. We have all of our different files, and now we kind of start our project. And the thing that I like to do with AI in particular is use the 5-layer insight question model. So I am going to put the link to this template in the show notes so that you can see it and use it yourself. But essentially what this does, and this is good for synthesis on something like Breyta, on a different tool, or just for yourself, because it gives 5 layers of insight types, and how you can advance the types of questions that you're asking when it comes to creating synthesis and insights and all of that stuff. So really fun. And I also love to use this as a way to test AI. So I used this on ChatGPT and it hallucinated quite a lot when we got to the different, more advanced layers. So obviously they get more advanced as we go. So we'll see layer 1 is insight, just an insight type only. So what are the top pain points, right? What do users say about this topic? And then we have layer 2, which is an insight plus a journey stage. So an insight at a particular stage. So what are the main blockers at the checkout stage? Then we have an insight plus journey stage plus feature or product, right? So what are the pain points during the consideration stage for the flexible dates tool, right? So we're getting more advanced, more layers. And so again, insight plus journey stage plus product plus outcome or goal. Okay, so we're really going here. And I put in like B2C, B2B, and internal tools, but what prevented users from customizing templates during the account setup stage, right? So we have a lot of different layers in there. And then finally, layer 5. A big thing for layer 5 is the exclusion or nuance, right? So excluding certain things. So what feedback did enterprise admins give about user permissions, excluding account deletion, right? So I think that this is, we don't really use like exclusion type kind of questions that much when it comes to this synthesis. I honestly haven't used it that much, but I think that it is really, really interesting to get really precise details from your research. So let's try this out on Breyta. So as you saw, I uploaded the different files, and then we start here with adding project questions. So these are questions that essentially you're asking the AI to analyze across your project, right? So utilizing this, I kind of put these in here already to make it a little bit easier. This would be layer 1. What are the top pain points, right? So we go in here, we ask this question, add it to the analysis, right? And so you'll see, and I'm going to pause and restart really quickly, but I just want to show you here. It's looking at the different findings from the different files, right? So it's going, what are the top pain points? And it's going through all of the files, right? So let's just see. All right, so we have findings from all 16 files. So what are the top pain points, right? So it looks at the major pain points in all across all of the different sessions that I put in. So all the different transcripts that I put in, and it lists out the different pain points with references, right? So it pulls out quotes in particular that help to bolster your arguments or your synthesis. So it shows you actual ways that this has come up, actual quotes from how it's come up in the research. So as we see here, we have technical integration issues, we have timing and schedule changes, so early morning and late night travel, work schedule, transportation mode. Oh, by the way, this is a travel, obviously, project, as I said. So all of the things that I uploaded had to do with travel. We have UI and filtering issues, cost and booking challenges, and impact on travel choices and communication and updates. So this has kind of filtered out the major pain points in quite a nice way, with like these different kind of subcategories. So when we look at timing and schedule changes, we have early morning and late night travel. So early mornings are stressful, and we have the quote here. Late night travel, there we go. Have another quote here. Cheapest options are only available at convenient times, which is very true, right? So here we go. So we have like the quote, and you can go into this actually and see this particular participant and what they said. If you upload audio and video, what it does is it gives you actual clips, which is really, really helpful and great, especially if you're sharing these with your team. So layer 1, I think that this is pretty good here. Like it does tell me the major pain points within this. Now, again, this is where it comes down to like, AI will not solve this for you. It's just going to make it more efficient, right? So now I have all of this information, and I might have notes written down that include other things like one-off insights that have come from certain pain points that only 1 or 2 people have said, right? And that's totally okay. Like, we're not going to get everything from this, but this does help us see those major themes. So let's try the next layer here. What are the customer pain points at the consideration stage of the customer journey? All right, we go in here, we add another question, and it loads it up. And then we'll see here again, it's doing the same thing of looking for the findings across all of these different files. All right. So also, I'm not pausing for that long. I just want to pause so that it's not boring for you as things happen. And I will have to pause for a long period of time because I do have an appointment coming up. But this is like literally taking like 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. So, which is really nice. So here we have this next layer. So the customer pain points at the consideration stage of the purchase journey. So here we have these key points: scheduling and timing challenges, again, connection and journey duration issues, so transferring and connecting, platform and technical issues. So there was some filter and search functionality problems, and some website and app problems. So tickets not syncing from the website to the app, right? So that's obviously something that is concerning. We have transportation mode specific concerns, so looking at what kind of transport we're doing, and emotional and comfort considerations, so safety and comfort perceived during a trip. And so these are all in that consideration stage. So people are considering the travel, and these are the things that they're thinking about. And honestly, I love these types, like I love layer 2 questions because they are often things that our stakeholders are looking for. So while like the top pain points are really interesting and good, I find that oftentimes like top pain points in general are really broad and hard to either like dice up across teams or for one team in particular to answer because they're generally like more holistic. Now, what's quite fun is when we start slicing and dicing things and getting into those other layers, what is quite interesting is that we are able to give teams more pointed and precise and specific information that they can actually act on. And I would say like one of the hardest things as a researcher is giving broad information to people and then it's not getting acted on because it's like too big, right? So if we look at things like just like a major pain points, like timing and schedule changes, right? That could potentially impact quite a few different teams and is quite like a big thing to deal with, like as an organization. But as we funnel down, we are able to get more precise information that can lead to changes or recommendations that we have that are much more doable for our teams, that they're much more likely to take action on, right? So if we go to like the filter and search functionality, right, there's several usability challenges here. Filter by labeling, pricing filter options are absent, departure and arrival times are not immediately apparent. Like this becomes a lot more nuanced, a lot more precise for teams to go away and actually do something. And so it's like as we start to like layer down, that's why these questions are so important, because as we start to layer down, it's really, really interesting how much more actionable things can come. And I find this a lot, like a lot of the transcripts that I uploaded a combination of one-on-one interviews, so more generative based research, and also a few usability tests as well, because I wanted to showcase, you know, how you can upload both types and still get this kind of like interesting data that combines these two areas that are kind of the same, but the AI is pulling out relevant details from both, which I find really difficult to do manually. But what I really love is, again, like as we layer down, we get into this nuance, which is really interesting. So now we're going to go into the third layer. So we're really layering down. So what are the pain points during the consideration stage for the flexible dates tool? Right. So again, it's that third layer of the insight type, the stage, and then like the actual like feature, right? And this is where I'm actually going to have to pause for a little bit longer because I have to run to another appointment, but we're going to let this run in the background and I will be back soon. Okay. So here we are now. What we did is we let Breyta do its thing for that third layer. So what are the pain points during the consideration stage for the flexible dates tool? Cool. So now we have these key pain points in the consideration stage, and we will also see if it brings in this flexible date tool. Okay. So we have these key pain points in the travel consideration stage, which we've kind of already know. So we have these time and schedule constraints, We have platform usability challenges, transportation mode specific issues. Okay, so we haven't 100% got the flexible dates tool in there, but it is talking a lot about like flexibility and constraints within timing and schedule. So while it didn't 100% pull just the flexible dates tool within this context, what it did do is it still pulled the relevant pain points when people are thinking about the constraints in which they would have to use something like flexible dates, right? So that's kind of where we see this like third layer coming in. I think for like most things, it would be quite difficult to pinpoint that much nuance, but we do at least have these like issues that come into consideration when it comes to like flexible dates or having flexibility. We see like constraints as this pain point, right? So we also see here departure and arrival time sliders not recognizable as filters, which comes into like the flexibility and filtering right within there. So interesting here. So let's go to the next layer, right? And that's the fourth layer. So we have, what are the barriers to booking for last minute deals at the booking stage, right? So we're looking at barriers to a certain goal for within like this particular context at this particular stage, right? So we're looking at 4 different layers in here now. So let's go in and see what we have here. Adding this question. Okay, so again, 4th layer, barriers, booking last minute deals at this booking stage, right? So key barriers to last minute travel bookings. So we have, again, these last minute, so it's really looked into these last minute bookings within that particular like a booking stage, which I think is really great. We're seeing a lot of the same, and like this is what happens is when you do this like 5 layers of insight questioning, you see a lot of repeated data and like synthesis and findings, which is actually really good because what you're doing is you're almost like funneling in. So you're getting like deeper and deeper and deeper and more nuanced, right? So yeah, I think that that's really interesting. And then we have here, this is kind of new. We have like payment system limitations, that's definitely new and has to do with like a bit about like this like barrier to booking for last minute details probably. We have schedule coordination challenges, which is also interesting. So last minute bookings has scheduling difficulties, so we're getting a little bit more nuanced. And then impact on booking success. So these barriers affect booking success in several ways. So comparison between price and convenience, safety concerns, technical issues, high prices and inconvenient timings, right? So we have gone deeper into this really with looking at these particular challenges, which I would say I also like this. We've learned that transportation modes can be a bit difficult depending on the transportation mode, but we have this like kind of wrapping back into like the last minute bookings are consistently expensive, right? So early booking is necessary to secure more affordable prices. Then we have while cheaper, extended travel time. So if you're doing like that last minute booking, you might have longer journey times, and while cheaper, having this extended travel, which might have like frequent delays or stops, right? So again, we're going a little bit deeper, and this is where we see that more actionability. It's like, okay, so like now that we're seeing this particular like within, because we know, at least I know because I did this research, last minute booking is like a thing that comes up quite frequently for people. People aren't booking, especially when you think about trains and buses, they aren't usually booking these things like super far in advance. Flights gets generally a little bit more in advance. People are looking at and trying to book flights, but for like trains and buses, it tends to be last minute. So when we're looking into this nuance, it gets a little bit more interesting for teams because we're able to like really pinpoint, okay, so like when people are last minute booking, these are the things that they are experiencing as barriers. And instead of like that general big pain point of, people having a hard time booking last minute, we're like coming into like, okay, but why are they having a hard time booking last minute? Right. So again, just like funneling in. And I would say like what I've learned throughout the years is like being able to like funnel your insights to things that are like really pinpointable and easier for teams to take action on, especially when it comes to that generative research, just makes such a big difference. So let's look at the last layer, which is quite a tough one. So this is looking into like a particular type of insight. So we have motivation mentioned by Gen Z. So we have like a particular persona now, and then we have this exclusion criteria. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. This would be like a tough one to do manually, right? But it's just so interesting because like with these kinds of tools, what I really love is I might not have been able to really go through the data and do this particularly like on my own because of the level of nuance and detail that I would have to go into. And like what I do love about this is that it allows me to experiment a little bit more with things that I might not have had time to do and like massage and look at the data slightly differently in that way. So let's add this question in and see what we get. Okay, let's see what we have here. So primary travel motivators for Gen Z. Great. That's like a good start. So we've made this very specific to this particular segment. So we have Gen Z considerations. So we demonstrate a strong motivation to find most cost-effective travel options, actively seeking out discounts, special offers, cheaper options, price over speed, accepting longer journey times for better rates, and multiple travel options to compare prices. Okay, we have safety and trust that comes up, schedule flexibility and time management, right? So a lot of similar things, which I'm not particularly surprised by, but I love this one, destination time optimization. So showing stronger motivations to maximize their time at destinations, convenience and travel experience, social and event-based travel, return journey, platform and service preferences, comfort and convenience, booking behavior. Okay. Has not said anything about loyalty, which is great. Although I'm not sure how loyal Gen Zers are in terms of like loyalty schemes. But still, really interesting that loyalty didn't come up because I know that it did come up in the research. So it was there. So this has excluded that, which I'm really happy about because exclusion is really, really tough. So what I do love about this in particular is we see like those recurring themes of safety and trust, schedule flexibility, time management. Like we see those things, which is really great because like humans do generally have like broader mental models that don't necessarily apply to like only one segment of humans. So like a lot of people, generally speaking, are thinking about schedule flexibility, time management, cost and value, safety and trust. A lot of people are thinking about that, not just Gen Zs. But what I do really like is that we go into like this like strong motivation to maximize their time at destinations. We have like a convenience factor here. We have social event-based travel, which is really, really interesting. Return journey, which like I would say is, yeah, also quite interesting. Comfort and convenience, super cool. So when it comes, so what's so fun about this and what I really like is, again, what we're doing is we're funneling down the insights. So we've gone from like, what are the top pain points? Okay. Timing and scheduling challenges. Early mornings and late night travel suck. Cool. Bummer. It sucks for everybody, right? So like that is in particular, like not convenient. It's not fun. for anybody. I know for myself, I travel quite a lot and I hate both of these things, right? But I have to encounter them. Like, and as a company, we're not going to like be able to change like travel times, right? So like, while this is like an interesting pain point, it's not necessarily an actionable pain point, right? So we're looking and we're seeing, great, like people like to travel earlier at night. So should we just tell all the airlines to have like super convenient weekend only trips afternoon? No, it's not feasible. But what I really do like is when we do funnel down, let's take the Gen Z motivating factors, is we have destination time optimization. So early arrivals, full day of activities, strategic planning of return journeys to maximize time, avoidance of late evening arrivals that limit destination activities, and also a little bit of this return journey preference for afternoon departures to have extra time in the city. So what is interesting about that is now we have this understanding of like, okay, people don't like traveling early. However, if you do arrive early, you have a full day of activities. People don't like late night travel. However, they want a full day, so they want later afternoon so that they can enjoy more time before departing. Interesting there. So then what this becomes is, instead of trying to solve the problem of people don't like to travel at inconvenient times, we can start to kind of think, okay, like how might we, so here we go into the how might we highlight early departures early departures from your like outbound, so going to your destination gives you extra time. Or how might we push overnight flights to these people who want to arrive early and have a full day of activity, right? And like same with the other one, is like, okay, people don't like leaving a destination late and getting home late, right? But how might we help them understand how to still include some things that their day of departure and arrive at a time that's somewhat convenient for them, right? So like what we're doing is we're starting to funnel down into things that are actually like changeable for us. Okay. And it's like the same thing here. If we look at, we looked before at schedule coordination changes, right? So schedules changing, that's always annoying for people. We also have, I'm not sure if we mentioned scheduling anywhere else. Let's see. Okay, so we have, we do. Timing schedule changes. Yeah, work schedule conflict. Okay, so we have work scheduling, which is interesting, scheduling and timing. Okay, more scheduling. Yeah, we have more like schedule flexibility, right? Whereas if we look down here, whereas we do have like schedule flexibility here, we have like event-based travel and social travel. So like coordination of travel plans with friends' schedules. So that's an interesting one. And it's like, okay, how might we make it easier for people to coordinate their travel plans with friends? That's like a whole new thing. Like that's not like, how might we change the schedules of these like airlines, trains, buses, which is like that more pain point of like, oh, well, scheduling is tough, but how might we help people like coordinate travel plans with friends? So that becomes, again, like that nuance just helps us with making things more actionable, because I know that I really struggled because I would almost stop up here, you know, because like we have a lot of stakeholders asking us what are the top pain points, and it's very easy to give them the top pain points, but oftentimes the top pain points are things that are either out of our control or almost like too abstract and vague for us to actually action on. And that doesn't mean that all of these are unable for us to action on. So let's find this, like any sort of like UI issue, like this we could action on. So there's a lack of clear labeling for filters. There's difficulty in finding and using departure arrival time filters. better price filtering options. Sure, those are like UI things that like UI, UX things that we can change that come from these top pain points. But those are usually from usability tests. So if we're looking at, since this is a mix of one-on-one interviews that are more generative and usability tests, this is coming from the usability testing. So if we're looking at that generative research though, we have a lot of these bigger like transportation specific issues. We have timing and schedule changes. We have work schedule, early morning, late night travel, right? So like if I'm giving, and I've done this because I have given my stakeholders the top pain points, and they've literally turned to me and been like, what are we going to do with this? We can't change the airlines or the trains or the buses. We can't change their schedule. We can't change the prices of these things, right? So that's why it's really important for us to continue going. So that's even with the consideration, this second layer, we get more information, which is really, really great. So we have transfer and connection concerns, right? So really going in and looking at like those short connection times and missed connections due to delays. So it's like, all right, well, how might we make it so that people aren't choosing these like super short connections? So like maybe that means we filter out connections that are less than 30 minutes, right? So like, again, like it just makes it a little bit easier here once you start getting into it. And like, again, like I want to stress that like all of this is doable manually, because like for 10 years, I have done this manually, right? And like, it's not necessarily like, oh, well, we need this AI to like do these things. But what's really nice about this is, again, like it gives me the flexibility to look into this data with such a nuance across a lot of different areas that I might not have had the time to do, right? I'm not like copying and pasting this into a report. What I'm doing is I'm looking at these things and I'm creating the insights based on this, based on my notes, based on the knowledge of all of the interviews that I've just sat through, and I'm creating my report on all of this information. This just gives me, first, speed and efficiency, and second, multi-layered approaches to looking at that synthesis, which I find really, really interesting, because you can throw these questions at it, and we always have to look out for hallucinations. We always have to look out for things that are wrong, but like we do that. I have done that for the past 10 years manually too, because I am dealing with my own biases. I am dealing with everybody else's biases. I'm dealing with wanting to get things done, which is like a huge stressor, right? So like we've been dealing with this stuff for eons, right? Now it's just in front of us in a very different way, right? I wouldn't go look at Wikipedia and be like, well, here's the answer. But I might look at Wikipedia and say, ooh, that's interesting. Maybe there are some facts in here that I need to go and like check out other sources, right? Like it's just the same thing as that. And like you're using your other sources, which is either secondary data that you knew that like got you into this project. You're looking at, or secondary data that supports or disproves the information that you're getting from this project. You're thinking about the interviews that you're in. You're looking over your notes. Like you're taking everything in combination with this to then create the insights, right? We're not just like putting this in and copying and pasting. Ideally, please don't do that. It's not what this is for. But it gives you that flexibility to look at all of these cool different like areas that you might not like. I would not have had the time necessarily to go in to say manually be like on top of all the stuff that I have to synthesize for, what are these like last minute deal things, right? Like, so sometimes I write down like during my interviews, I'm like, oh my God, so interesting. Like a few people have said this, but like I might not have time to look into that particular like nuance, especially like before the project is over. I might be able to go back to it later and then like pull it out and then it becomes another project. But this allows me to like look at those nuances more quickly, more efficiently within the context of the actual project and be like, hey, I actually was able to like pull this thing out. Maybe there's something here. Maybe we actually need to do more research on it. Maybe we don't. Maybe we have enough here, but we wouldn't have had that possibility had I been trying to do all of this manually, right? So I don't know. I think that this is quite interesting. I hope that this gives some kind of insight into how I use these tools. And again, it's not, I mean, I guess it's a shortcut in a way, but it's not like cutting me out of the process completely, right? But what it is it's just making it easier for me to look at data in like multiple ways. And it also helps me with like critical thinking, because I need to make sure that the information in here is relevant to what I actually heard, right? So that's where the copying and pasting does not do you any justice. So again, looking through all of these, we can create some really cool insights. And I might actually use this stuff and kind of walk through how I would use this to create a report. If that's something that you'd be like interested in, to kind of watch me do that, I'd be happy to do that. Because it is super fun to kind of just see some behind the scenes. But anyways, I hope that was helpful. Please let me know. Again, I would recommend, I'm gonna share this, but I would recommend giving Breyta a try. And it has helped me with efficiency and just looking at data in all those multiple ways. But anyways, I hope you have a great day. And yeah, I'm happy to have been able to share this. So thank you so much.